I supported my GF through cancer and remission. She rewarded me by cheating on me and leaving me. My first GF was my HS sweetheart and she was my everything. We were together for 8 years before I learned that she'd been cheating on me for years. It completely destroyed my trust in women and desire to date for years, and I retreated from the world. I stayed single for about 6 years, concentrated on myself and my parents. I wasn't lonely as I was working, had my friends and looked after my parents. I was envious of my parents though. The companionship they shared was deeper than love. My father convinced me that life isn't worth living if you go through it alone and you need to share it with someone. I met someone through a book club. We started off as friends at first but slowly began to notice that we'd be the only two left long after each meeting ended, and after a few months we realized we were madly in love with one another. She made me forget everything that had happened in the past and made me realize I'd been wasting my time moping about. We moved in together, were talking about marriage and children, and life seemed perfect. My father died a year into us dating. He was very old and it was his time, but it still hit like a sack of bricks. What was worse was seeing how badly it affected my mother. She seemed to waste away and had given up on life. She was always crying and I tried to spend more time with her, but in a cruel sense of irony my GF found a lump, and after more scans and a biopsy it was confirmed to be breast cancer. Thankfully it was caught early and could be treated. I was with her for every chemo and radiotherapy treatment. I made all her meals and waited on her hand and foot. I moved my mother in with us as I couldn't divide my time between them, and thankfully my job allowed me to cut my hours and work from home. For around a year I was essentially a full-time carer for both of them. My GF had to have an operation to remove the lymph nodes from right armpit and I was there for her. For weeks she was too weak to get out of bed, too depressed to do anything, and it really fucked with my mental and physical health looking after two people who had given up on life. To cut a long story short, she went into remission, and whilst she's still on tablets and had to get a checkup every 6 months, she was finally cancer-free. This also seemed to improve my mother's mood as well. It seemed to breathe new life into her, and for a few weeks we were a really happy trio. My GF was still very weak, her hair was patchy but growing back, and she felt like life was worth living. I was popping into work more, my mother was leaving the house more often and could face going back to my parents' place again, and life seemed to be returning to normality. So what better time to leave me for some other guy? The majority of the time she was too weak to do anything, so she spent a lot of time on MMOs. She met a crowd of people, made friends, and essentially fell in love with a guy. He wasn't local, but he wasn't far away either, and he came to visit her. She went to his hotel and stayed with him for the night. I don't know what happened between them. Thought she maintains they only kissed. All night was a lovely sting to add. She's in love with him, they're more compatible than we are apparently, and there's too much pain associated with our relationship. Her wasn't there to wipe her bottom and clean her up because she was too weak to get out of bed. He didn't sleep on a blow-up mattress on the floor most nights so he could always be there for her. He didn't reassure her every day that he loved her, wasn't going to abandon her, and that we'd get through this together. But hey, he's good at a fucking game and has all the time to play with her because he's not tired from work, caring for his mother or for someone suffering through the joys of cancer. I'm done with women, I'm done with love, I'm done with people, and I'm just fucking done. I live only for my mother, and when she goes to join my father I'm just going to sell everything I have and fade away into the fucking woods or Alaska or something. How can people have no fucking remorse? How can you just look at someone who has held your hand and been with you through the most horrendous times and think, yeah, but he doesn't have time to play my MMO with me? Fug you, I'm just fucking done with people.